watched me before. If not, hi, hello, my name's Zoe and this is my channel, Ms. Manga, where I talk about all things manga related. And we are returning for part 2 of my completed reads of 2022. If you missed part 1, feel free to go in my link and watch that one either before or after this, totally up to you, or just watch part 2. But today we will be talking about my special category reads and also my top 5. So exciting. I'm going to try and make this quick, so let's get into it. Why don't we start from the bottom? Might as well get that out of the way. So my worst read of 2022 was one I read online, and it's called Atsumori Kun's Bride to Be. And I really didn't like it. I actually ended up DNFing it. I never DNF manga. Like novels, yeah, sometimes. But I was reading the 6th volume, which was the last volume, and I was just like, why am I doing this to myself? It is not going to surprise or excite me. It has gotten steadily worse as each volume progresses, and why am I like making myself read this last volume? So I just, yeah, still counting it though, because it was so bad it made me stop reading it. So I think it deserves to be on my list. Anyway, this is like a country bumpkin meets a Tokyo city boy, and she really wants to go to Tokyo, but her parents are very like traditional and don't really want her to go to the big city by herself. And this guy that has some connection to her family visits from Tokyo, and his like throwaway line is like, oh well, you can just be my bride, we could like get married and then you could live in Tokyo and go to school. Yay! I know it's a really dumb premise. But you know, it's shoujo, it's cliche, that's fine. Like I don't have a problem with that. But it was just so they were infuriating. Like they were an annoying couple, and every problem that arose was annoying. And yeah, it just was so predictable, and I was not having it. The art is pretty. That's like the only thing I can give to it, is the art is pretty. But yeah, I do not recommend this book. And it's really hard for me not to recommend something, because even when I don't fully enjoy something, I'm like, yeah, you might like it, you might give it a try. I'm like, no. So yeah, moving on, we have my special category most disappointing read of 2022, and that would be Demon Prince of Momochi House. So I think it's just because it has these beautiful covers, really nice artwork, and it's a fantasy shoujo series that's like one of my few like remaining favorite shoujo. It usually has some fantasy aspect to it. Even just in my romance, I tend to like fantasy to be part of it. But this one was just disappointing, and I don't think it's a bad read per se. It just like, yeah, it just disappointed me because I expected more. I wanted more. But anyway, the art's beautiful, and yeah, so I can't completely like be like, I don't recommend this like the other one. But yeah. So the story is about an orphan girl who inherits a house, the Momochi house, but when she shows up there, it's actually already occupied, and it's occupied by Oi, this boy, who she has like an immediate like, ooh, he cute. Which I don't blame her. He's the best character, hands down, to me, him. And then of course he happens to be possessed by the new, and that is because when he wandered into the Momochi house as a child, the house is actually a portal between the Ayakashi realm or spirit realm and human realm. So since there was no protector of the house and the barrier, he kind of like became possessed by the new, who is the protector, so that the house, has a guardian now. And yeah, so the new is gorgeous and always cute. And the whole problem that is the, main focus of the story is just that Oi can't leave the house now because he is possessed by the new. So that's like the major conflict, or like, whatever. So yeah, it has like all the building blocks for a story that I would really, really like. But it was just kind of meh. It just never got there. Every like problem that arises and seems really interesting kind of gets resolved rather quickly, and then they move on to the next problem. I don't know. Maybe it's like the non-connectedness of it. To me, it felt like that. And yeah, you're free to disagree if you've read it. And the antagonist of the story also kind of felt meh to me. He didn't seem very threatening. He just kind of pops up and goes away, pops up, goes away, and the like final conflict battle thingamajigger is just kind of, again, meh. The whole series just felt very meh, and I don't know. I was so disappointed. But don't think it's bad. It just isn't something that I'll probably read again. But it's really hard for me to get rid of the series because the covers and the art are so pretty. So I still have it for now, but we'll see. Next up, my special category is most surprising in a positive way, and that goes to Ran in the Grey World. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say I like this series. I just thought it was possible that the series was going to be very, 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 very icky. And instead, it's only kind of icky. So I was surprised, and in a good way. I was like, oh, I'm pleasantly surprised by this not being as terribly icky as it could have been. Which I know, I had like low expectations going in, because I think you'll understand when I even just tell you the premise of the story. So the premise is this 10-ish, maybe 12 at the most year old girl comes from a magical family. She has magic powers. She's like a witch. Her mom's a witch. Her dad also has his own powers, and her brother is kind of like a werewolf, but he can like transform into a wolf at will. So yeah, they're a magic family, which I just said I love fantasy, so that's why I picked it up to begin with. And the art is really cool. It's really unique and different. But yeah, so this girl that's, a preteen, she really wants to grow up. She wants to grow up and be beautiful and talented like her mother. And so apparently, somehow, she got these magic sneakers. And when she puts the sneakers on, she at least physically looks like an adult or an older teen. They don't exactly specify what her age is supposed to be. But yeah, so can already see this is problematic, because now the small child doesn't look like a small child. And then she meets a 30-something-year-old man who immediately takes a liking to her. And it's just like, no, please no. I can't completely blame him, because he's only looking at what he sees. And she does look much older than she actually is. But my God, did we need that in the story? Because I sure as heck didn't need that. It was so, like, watching like panels of him like trying to feel her up. Oh God, no, just no, not for me. So that's why I said, even though this surprised me positively because it didn't go full ick, I'm not recommending it necessarily, because it still has that element in it, which is a big element, and it's kind of throughout the whole series. So yeah, this 30-something-year-old man is like hardcore pursuing her and flirting with her, and it's just like that, it gives me the ick. And so, because I know, as a reader, I know she's just a child, and that's super, super gross. And it especially bothers me because they're such a perfect, amazing, great prospective love interest that is her own age, that's a classmate, and I love him. He's the best. He's my favorite character out of the whole thing. He's like a little baby tsundere, and he's so funny, but he's like really sweet and like supportive, and oh my god, like, yeah, he's just the best. Forget the 30-year-old man. You go for the guy that's your age, that's way more like understanding, supportive, and healthy relationship. You have so much more in common. Like, yeah, it's an icky age gap that luckily doesn't go too far. If it had crossed a certain line, I think I would have just thrown the books out. It does not. But it crosses a few of my, I don't really like this lines. So yeah, just know that going in. It could have been way worse, and it wasn't, so I was happy about that. I would still not rate it above 3 stars. It's just an okay read. But yeah, I love the classmate. He's so adorable, and I don't know, it just could have been a cool fantasy series where she was just like, you know, she wanted to grow up prematurely, like, you know, as some kids do. I was never one of those kids. I always just wanted to be a kid forever. But some kids are just like really eager to grow up. So that could have been a theme without the ick factor of the 30-year-old man. But yeah, okay, those are my thoughts on that one. Moving on. All right, next up we have my guilty pleasures category. I have a lot of guilty pleasures where I wouldn't necessarily say they're all good reads, but I was entertained while I read them, so that's why they're in this category. And the first one is Black Panther and Sweet 16, and this is a messy, toxic, and just straight up entertaining ride for me. It's available digitally, so if you want to check it out, there is no physical copy. I'm torn if I would buy a physical copy of this one because, yeah, it's not great. There's nothing like to commend about it. but it was enjoyable because it was just the right amount of messy, I guess. I'm a messy girl. So anyway, this rich boy collapses in front of this kind of tough girl's house, and she's really strong and intense, but she hates that about herself, so she's really self-conscious about it. And anyway, the boy that collapses tricks her into giving him water mouth to mouth, and thus kind of forcing a kiss on her. He's a little scummy, a little twisted, but yeah, anyway, he decides he wants her to make him her pet. Yes, pet. We got a little issue. We got some issues going on, but I am not a therapist and I cannot diagnose. So anyway, they get into this kind of situationship where it's master pet. I cannot say that with a straight face. And yeah, it's got some really pretty art, and it's got, you know, the kind of romance cliches of a obligatory love triangle and the spoiled rich main boy with his traumatic kind of sad backstory. And then there's just a nice little sprinkling of spicy moments and some steamy-ish scenes. So I definitely would rate this one like 16 plus. Yeah. But overall, I wouldn't recommend it, but I enjoyed reading it. I don't know what that says about me, but yeah. Moving on to my next guilty pleasure read, because there is more than one in this category. It is Sweet Blood, and this is a Korean manhwa BL. So it's not super explicit. It's more that it insinuates or shows pieces enough for you to get the idea without showing you the whole picture. So yeah, so just so you know, if that is something you'd be interested in, it's a lot toxic. Mostly because of the main vampire. He is toxicity personified. There we go. So yeah, it's a story about a vampire from like a whole nother world, dimension, or whatever. He kidnaps this boy from South Korea because his blood tastes so good to him. So yeah, it's their relationship, you know, it's based on kidnapping. It's not a great start, not very healthy. But yeah, it's got a lot of cliche drama, but it gets so good when we get the whole like he is taken in by a different guy halfway through ish, or a little before halfway through, and then he starts developing feelings for that guy, but then the vampire guy wants to steal him back. There's, you know, a lot, it's messy, you know, we got a love triangle, we got memory erasure. He gets like his memory erased from, and we got the dangerous vampire bad boy that it just doesn't understand his own feelings and how to communicate, and so he hurts the people he cares about. Trope. And yeah, so yeah, is it quality story? No, but it's really it's an enjoyable one for me. And yeah, a little bit of spice, a little bit of fantasy, which is always nice. But yeah, like I said, no real explicit scenes. Still probably 16 plus, but not like, doesn't really show much of anything. You could get the picture. And last, and my favorite guilty pleasure read of 2022 was Zay. And oh my god, this was just like everything I want in yaoi. It has got these great smutty scenes. It's got a really great fantasy premise. And yeah, like honestly, if there wasn't this one couple in it, it might have made my top 5 reads because it was just that good. It has to have that one couple that I'm just like, stop it. What is this? Why do you like this, Japan? And yeah, I'll just spoil it a little bit. I mean, it covers different couples, so this couple's only in it for bits and pieces, and then there's like about a volume and a half covering their backstory. And their backstory, it's revealed that the one guy knew the other one since he was, you know, a literal like child, like 5. It gives me that parent guardian, then it evolves into more, and it just, I don't like that. Stop it. Stop it, Japan. I love you, but stop it. And I do think this is an older yaoi, but like with Ran in the Grey World, it's just, why do we keep seeing these tropes, you know? It's not what I want in my fiction. But yeah, anyway, let's talk about the story of Zay, because I'm getting heated about the little part I don't like, but there's so much I do love about this one. So yeah, anyway, we're introduced to a rather odd family when Raizo moves into this house to be their like housekeeper, caretaker, kind of cook and clean for them. And yeah, he finds out the Mito family secret, which is that the Mitos can use a great power with only their words. So they're saying a word like stop or die would have great and like immediate consequences. And use this great power, but it gets backlash into physically hurting them. So like when they use it, they get a physical wound from using the power. So they need to then use these human-like paper doll puppets that look exactly like humans to transfer their wounds And of course that must be done through bodily contact, folks. As all good yaois must. This one's obviously not for children. But yeah, each like 2-ish volumes covers a different couple, and I loved all the couples except for the one mentioned previously. Even if some of them do have like a few toxic traits to them, it's still an enjoyable toxicity, except for that one. Yeah, and then we do see like small advancements on the plot overall through these couple volumes, but we don't really get the whole how this all started until the last 2 volumes. So it kind of works its way backwards, can be a bit confusing because you're like, what the heck's going on? What's this and what's that? But it's kind of all explained in reverse. The whole picture gets clearer as you go. So yeah, and yeah, it was some high quality smut. So if you are looking for that, you might want to check this older series out. I did read it online, and now I'm desperately trying to collect the physical volumes, but it's really hard. I still need volume 1 and 6 and 9, and I don't know if I'll ever get those, but yeah, it's still really worth just reading it online. All right, we have entered the top 5. So dramatic. And starting off at number 5, we have Sacrificial Princess and the King of Beasts. This was the fantasy romance of the year for me. And maybe it did hurt Demon Prince because I read them both so close together that I kept kind of comparing it in my head to this well-executed romance shoujo-ish style fantasy series. It was not to that series' benefit. But yeah, this one is about a young girl, Selfie. I'm probably saying it wrong, but yeah, she is the next sacrificial human to the King of Beasts. So every year since the humans and the beast nation have like entered this tentative peace, they have sent over a human sacrifice to the beast kind and their king. So Selfie is that the next one, and she arrives, and she's just kind of like resigned to her fate a little bit. She found out when she was pretty young, and so she's kind of quippy, kind of not, you know, being like, woe is me, I'm so sad, crying or anything. She's just kind of like, oh, look at this, oh, look at that, like making little remarks and stuff. And it just immediately ingratiated me to her. I just liked her a lot. And yeah, it is a love is more skin deep than, you know, fantasy romance. Definitely gives me some Beauty and the Beast kind of vibes. If you are at all into that, because obviously like we have a beast like creature and then the human. So, and then she's also kind of trapped in their kingdom because of being a sacrifice. She's no longer like welcome home. So there's that. And obviously she's not sacrificed. I think you could tell. And she finds out that the Beast King is much more kind and like a good guy than she maybe expected him to be. And they both kind of see something in the other. And so the Beast King wants to make Selfie his queen. And he's like, I'm not going to sacrifice her, and she's going to be my queen. And of course, that makes a lot of the beast kind upset. They see themselves as stronger and more superior than humans. There's a lot of bit of racial commentary thrown in there, which I thought was interesting. Yeah, so Selfie kind of goes around the kingdom trying to like connect with certain people and stuff, and some of the stories straight up made me cry. Like her interactions with certain characters just was like so sweet. And she's just a really kind and generous character. She reminds me a lot of Toru from Fruits Basket. So if you don't like that character, you might not like this one either. But yeah, they gave me the same vibe. They're just loving, open, wholeheartedly want the best for people characters. And yeah, it's really authentic and genuine feeling. So to me, it's really lovely. I just liked her a lot. And she also, because of her nature and because of who she is slowly more accepted by different people outside of just the king. And yeah, it's a really good story. It's got a little action and the fantasy element, and then the good, strong characters, which makes this one get my number 5 spot. On to number 4, we have '07 Ghost. And this one is about the immortal struggle of the immortal struggle of good versus evil in a ghostly gothic adventure tale. The first couple volumes can be a bit of a struggle because this is a very complex world and there's a lot of world building and exposition that goes into that. So, but there's still a lot of action and a lot of really like intense moments within the first couple volumes to keep you reading through all the expository parts. But yeah, it's about the path of one evil god and 2 rival empires. So you got a mythical kind of fight going on between these gods, and you got a very much like mortal political fight between these 2 empires. And there's these bishops and 7 brave ghosts that are all kind of converging on one character, Taito. And Taito has a sacred object unknowingly with him that is sought after by like all these different factions. So he is like on the run and trying to figure out what it all means, where it came from. He's looking into his past. And so yeah, there's just a lot of shenanigans and a lot of people after him. Like a very epic fantasy adventure story that has these really good heart-wrenching moments in it and has really well written characters that even the bad and the good are really enjoyable. And yeah, so it made my 4th spot on the list because of that. Now we are on to my top 3, and in the number 3 spot we have As Miss Beelzebub Likes. And this one is just so cute. It made me smile like almost the whole way through. It's just an adorable fantasy slice of life kind of story with some romance tossed in. And I'm not a huge slice of life person, but especially when you mix it with fantasy and then a little romance, I like it. And I really like this one. So anyway, this series is about Beelzebub, who is the formidable right hand of Satan, and she commands fear and respect through pandemonium, which is where this, like where quote unquote hell is. That's what they call it, pandemonium. This is the city they all live in. So yeah, but what the general public doesn't know about her is that she's an airhead and she just loves all things fluffy and adorable. So she's just so cute. Beel is like the least scary and formidable character ever, and I love that. I do wish there was like one scene in the books where like she shows us how formidable and you know kind of intense she could be. But no, it's just like it's times of peace, and she's just she can just be her true self, which is just a sweet and kind and adorable character. And yeah, and so the story starts when she gets a new attendant, Mulan. And right away she likes teasing Mulan, and Mulan is just trying to make her be responsible and do her work. And it's just a cute dynamic off the bat. And then we're also slowly introduced to more characters of Pandemonium who are like friends or acquaintances, usually of Beale, and that then we get the interactions of her and the other characters, or Mulan and the other characters of Pandemonium. And a lot of them are really cute, and I enjoy like one character, Balthazar. She's really cute, and she likes this like big tough looking, kind of scary looking guy, but he's like really such a sweetheart. But anyway, she is too nervous to even talk to him, and she has to like pee every time she sees him, even though she like has a huge crush on him and she wants to talk to him, and he thinks she's scared of him. It's just cute. And there's another character set that is kind of like Beale and Mulan, where the attendant or the like second in command is a girl, and she's trying to get her flirty slacker of a boss to stay in line. She does it a lot more in a physical manner than Mulan does, but it's funny too. It has to be this one character that I just don't really vibe with. I don't dislike her, but her like whole thing is that she's a Shotokan, and if you don't know what a Shotokan is, it's basically a grown-ass, usually woman, who likes the aesthetic, I guess, of younger boys, like kid age boys. You see what I'm saying about these tropes of Japan? Japan, stop it.
Stop it. Get some help.
She doesn't want to date them or anything. It's not quite as weird. There's like levels of ick, and she's like a little less than the other icks, but like it's still not great. It's still not okay. It's not enough to ruin it. Obviously, I still really enjoyed it. She is not a main character, and she just has a few like subplots that get, you know, a couple chapters here and there. That's the only negative of this series. I love the art. I love just especially Mulan and Beale's relationship progression, and how cute Beale is. And yeah, it's just a super sweet slice of life fantasy read. And then the number 2 spot, we have not a manga this time, actually. We have a light novel, and that is Scum Villain's Self-Saving System. Oh, such a mouthful. And don't ask me to say it in Chinese because I can't. And it would just be embarrassing for everyone. So yeah, this is a 4-volume light novel. The 3 volumes tell the main story, and the last volume has extra side stories about different characters in the series. So it's a shorter one, but yeah. Oh, it's also a BL, Danmei from China, and it is about the half-demon Lo Benghe. Hopefully I said it somewhat right. Who rose from humble beginnings and a tortured past to become an unrivaled in strength and beauty, has dominion over both the human and demon realms, and has a 100-strong harem. He is truly the most powerful protagonist in a trashy web novel series. At least that's what Shen Yuan believes as he finishes reading the final chapter in Proud Immortal Demon Way. But when in a bout of rage over the final chapter leads to Shen Yuan's sudden death, he finds himself reborn into the world of the trashy web novel. And in the body of Shin Chu, I probably butchered it and I'm sorry, the beautiful but cruel teacher of a young Lo Benghe, who is our main protagonist, and who ends up murdering Shen Chu. Shen Qingzhi in the original story. So needing to not be killed, and because he's a decent guy, he's not cruel like the, as he calls him, original flavor. And I'm going to just refer to him as Shizun now because it's easier for me to say. But as Lo Benghe's Shizun, he strives to be a kinder teacher, except for that the system will not let him act out of character up until a certain point in the story. So it's, I thought, a fun change in the traditional reborn as a villain kind of trope, that he wasn't permitted to act in a way that wouldn't be like his original flavor. He's trying to get into Lo Benghe's good graces so he doesn't end up dead in this one. And by doing so, he ends up changing a lot about the web novel. And instead of making it a trashy harem web novel, he ends up making it a BL web novel. Whereas he is the main affection of Lo Benghe. And it's so funny to see that progress. Again, we do start, and you might call me a hypocrite, but there are reasons that even though we start with a young Lo Benghe that is like, you know, a young teen age kid, and that he is in a position of his teacher, yes, that it is clear that Shizun himself, or Shen Yuan, does not see him in any light other than just a student and just someone he feels bad for, and he wants to try and make their interactions more better than the original flavor wanted to, and treat him better. So there's no, like, from the adult side, there's no pursuing of any kind. And it's only actually until quite a long time has passed in between the actual, like, master-student relationship that then Lo Benghe himself starts kind of more aggressively pursuing Shizun. And until the last bit is not, it doesn't tread that, cross over that line. So I'm just saying, I'm not hypocritical entirely. I hate that I have to say that. But yeah, it did not give me that same ick factor. And if it does for you, understandable. But I really, really enjoyed it. I especially loved Shen Yuan, or like as Shizun, and his internal dialogue with himself and the system. Oh my god, he made me laugh so many times. He's so funny. And Lo Benghe is a little brat, but I love him. He's so cute, but like such a little jealous brat, and it's perfect. They're really cute, and I had just a really fun time reading them. Alrighty, the moment you've all been waiting for. Drumroll. My number one pick is Blue Flag. I have wanted to read this series for so long, and then I think it was volume 3 was out of stock for so long, so I didn't even get, I think, the complete series until last year, or maybe the tail end of 2021. But anyway, then I read it in the spring of 2022, and oh my god, this is just everything. I adored it, and it's a nice short series. It's exploring coming of age, and also has LGBTQ plus themes, which I always love to see some of that representation in my stories. And all the characters are just great. Like, they're so well written. So yeah, anyway, let's talk about the story. So this is an unexpected love quadrangle with a dash of unrequited love, as two classmates, a boy and a girl, begin to fall for each other. However, each of their best friends have already fallen for them. And yeah, it's about the dynamics between the four of them, and it's just, oh my god, I loved it so much. It's so bittersweet, and it's full of angst and pining and anger and confusion, and a confusion of growing up and finding out that people you're closest to might just have like secrets they don't want to share, that they didn't want you to know, not in bad ways, just like you just can't always know someone, even someone you're really close to. You can't know everything about them. And it's just, it like, it hurts my heart in the best ways. Like, it was just such a, like, I kept reading volume after volume because I just had to know how it ends. It's just like one of those ones where I wanted everyone to have a happy ending. And I didn't know if that was going to be the case. And I'm not going to spoil it for you, but let's just say I was very satisfied with the ending. And I do love a good coming of age story, so it's just in my wheelhouse. And yeah, I just want to hug all the characters because they're all so just sweet and endearing, and sometimes so sad, and they just need a hug. And they're just, you know, like teenagers navigating life and feelings and relationships together, and it's chef's kiss. It's just, to me, such a well-written, executed story, and I highly recommend this one. I think everyone should read it. It's awesome. All ages welcome. It doesn't go into any steamy sauciness. It's just pure and sweet, and yeah, I loved it. Phew, we made it to the end of my completed reads of 2022. A round of applause for you who watched this. I appreciate you so much because I know I talk a whole lot, especially if you watched part 1 and part 2. You're the best. Thank you so much. And yeah, if you like this video, please leave it a like. And if you want to see more Ms. Manga content, please subscribe. Hit that big red button. And I hope to see you next Monday, or maybe a little earlier if I upload another video during the week. We'll see. But for now, bye!